I just realized I'm starting to sound a lot like Bob Ross. Happy little curls, happy little feather stick. Hey YouTube, Joe Bassett for Valiant Outfitters here with another Wilderness Wednesday. If you followed my channel for any amount of time, you know I'm about hacks and tricks and tips, things that make bushcrafting and wilderness survival easier. But there are some things that only come with practice. In fact, you may have seen on Instagram, and I'll give you a link down at the bottom here for my Instagram account so you can follow me there. On that Instagram account, I posted my 80-20 rule. My 80-20 rule is survival, bushcraft, camping, enjoying the outdoors, surviving in the outdoors. It's 80% what you've got in your brain, your skill and your knowledge set. 20%, the tools you have. And 98.6% dirt time. What I mean by that is, this of course is the most important. Your backpack may be full, your go kit may be full, your bug out bag may be full, but you'll never fill this. You can keep adding stuff into here and it weighs nothing. A lot of people think that you need to have big fancy tools, you need to have the biggest bushcraft knife. Nah, you don't. It's skills. Those tools, they're only 20% of the equation. But 98.6, your body temperature is getting out there in the woods. I know the math doesn't work. I'm just trying to be cute and clever with 80, 20, 98.6. See what I did there? One of those skills that needs practice is a feather stick. Now, when I said the word feather stick, some of you thought, I've read about this online, I've seen a YouTube video, I'm just going to pick up my knife, pick up my stick, and I'm going to start hacking away at it. I've seen that group of people at our bushcraft camps, and they're usually humbled pretty quickly. Then there's the other group that hears about feather sticks, and they think it's some type of black magic voodoo. And they run away screaming and yelling, "Ah, feather sticks, feather sticks." This is for beginners. Feather sticks for beginners. How to practice as a beginner, how to get success. This is not what you're going to use in survival. This is simply to get you started and also get your techniques together. Now, there are some things that you want to have for sure for a feather stick. You want to have a piece of wood that's pretty straight. This one really is not. A lot of people look at this and think it's relatively straight, but this bend in here is going to give you a lot of trouble if you're a beginner, if you haven't developed skill. Even for those that have some skill, that's going to be difficult. The other thing is knots. The fewer knots you have, the easier it's going to be. I also like to recommend a softwood for beginners especially. The final thing is you want an edge. You want a peak. Now there is no edge, there is no peak here. It's round. How would I get one? I'd use that batoning trick. So if I baton down, you can see now I've made two peaks. There's a flat spot, and by the way, you want to avoid flat spots. You want peaks. So I can use that batoning, and of course if I baton this again, I've made three peaks because I've made the peak down the middle of this, and then I've made a peak on either side. Well, for beginners, let's eliminate needing to look for something straight, and let's eliminate as many knots as we can. How are we going to do that? We're going to let our friends at Home Depot and Lowe's help us out. For beginners, to learn the skill and practice the skill, just go out and get a softwood and cut it down to a reasonable size that you can handle in one hand. It has our peaks built into it. It's mighty straight. This is just a piece of 1x2 that actually I found in the garage, but I'm pretty sure it originally came from Home Depot. So I've eliminated my first two hurdles. Now all I need to work on is how to use my knife and develop skills to get a good feather stick. Let me show that to you. Whenever we're working with a knife or with an edge, there's a basic rule. A still knife, a still axe, a still cutting tool is safer than one that's moving. Now sometimes that cutting edge has to move. In this case, it doesn't. In this case, I'm going to take my knife and I'm going to grip it well in my dominant hand. But that's also going to anchor it. And to anchor it, I'm going to put it against my knee. When you're practicing this skill, do it sitting down. That way I can take that wrist and I can lock it in place. Something else I want to do is I want to use big muscles. I want to use big muscles and I want to use my bone structure as an advantage. In this case, I want my knife to be angled back slightly, not out like this, back here. Out here, I'm having to use muscle to lock it in place. Back here, I'm using my bone structure to lock it in place. With my other hand, I want to take my wood and I'm going to draw it back. That's using my big muscles across here in my torso, my abdominal muscles. I'm also going to use some of my pecs here, and I'm going to be able to draw that wood back against the knife. And I'm going to start with my cut in here towards the handle, and as I pull back, it's going to pull out this way, and it's going to work somewhat like a chisel that a woodworker would use. Now to begin this, I don't want to cut the wood yet. I want to lay the knife on top of the wood so that it's not down onto the edge, but it's up on the thickest part of the blade. I'm doing this so that I can learn the angle of the grind. And this is going to change with knives. By the way, you did make sure that you have a good sharp honed knife, didn't you? Because this is really hard with a dull knife or a knife that's lost its edge. In fact, people don't realize that a sharp knife is a safe knife. A dull knife is not. So make sure your tools are in good working order. There's that 20% of tools. So I'm going to take my knife and I'm just going to draw back. I'm not cutting anything yet. And I'm going along that edge that the lumberyard put in for me. Then I'm going to tip down onto the grind, but I still don't want to shave yet. I'm going to slowly tilt the knife in as I pull back several times, nice and slow, until I start to get just tiny little shavings. And then I'm going to slowly keep moving that knife. And I'm going to end up with my curly cues that you've seen on all those YouTube videos. But I want to do this nice and slow. I just realized I'm starting to sound a lot like Bob Ross. Happy little curls, happy little feather stick. Also, we have some happy accidents. Those happy accidents are the curls that fall off, the shavings that fall off. That's okay. I can still use those in my kindling. As I go down and I keep practicing this, I'm going to turn that knife and keep aiming for the peaks that I'm creating on either side. A word of caution here. You're going to have success really quickly using this technique and using this wood that you got from your friends at Home Depot and Lowe's. It's not going to go quite this well when you're out there using wood that you've sourced. But for practice, you're going to be very happy with the results pretty quickly. When I've done enough there, I'll just flip the wood and I'll practice a little bit more on this. Now that I lost that shaving, so I'm going to go back and I'm going to go flat. And then I'm going to go onto the grind, and then I'm going to keep going down until I feel that edge engage. So there you have it. The feather stick demystified. You don't need to be afraid of it anymore. And now you know, don't just jump right into it. Practice it. 80% up here, 20% here, 98.6% getting out in the woods this weekend. Get your body temperature out there. Get some dirt on you. Practice making a feather stick while you're sitting around the campfire. Of course, I just thought, how do you make a campfire until you make your feather stick? Well, make a feather stick, light the fire, practice making feather sticks. If you enjoyed this video, if you found it helpful, hit that like button, subscribe. I always like when I meet new subscribers. This is Joe Bassett for Valiant Outfitters. Thanks for joining me for another Wilderness Wednesday.